Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, I'm Aulia Ulfa Hasana from Ford Group will deliver material about the age of John Dryden. John Dryden's quote is that in itself is nothing but we fear to be we know not what, we know not where. The first is author information. What Dryden achieved in his poetry was neither the emotional excitement of the early 19th century's romantics nor the intellectual complexities of the metaphysicals. His subject matter was often factual and he aimed at expressing his thought in the most precise and concentrated manner. John Dryden's quote also, we first make our habits and then our habits make us. If you have lived, take thankfully the past. Quote by John Dryden. The second is importance of John Dryden. He is seen as dominating the literary life of the Restoration England to such a point that the period came to be known in the literary circles as the Age of Dryden. Warner Scott called him Glorious John. John Dryden is a neoclassical critic. He is called the father of English criticism. The third is the Dryden's translation theory. Even though Dryden's argument rests on a solid ground when the aesthetic reasons are considered, his approach is thought-oriented, prescriptive, and confines the translation act of the principles he states. Dryden's views on translation were followed fairly Dryden's view on translation were followed fairly closely by Alexander Pope, 1988 until 1744, who advocates the same middle ground as Dryden, which with stress on close reading of the original to note the details of style and manner whilst endeavoring to keep alive the fire of the poem. In the article, Dryden deals with, according to Dryden's translation, is like drawing after the life, where everybody will regard that there is double sort of likeness, a good one and a bad one. He points that the qualification of a translator word reading must be a mastery of the language. He translates out of and he translates into, but if but if a deficiency to be allowed in either is the original, since he is not master enough the outsourced tongue, it is possible for him to express that sense with eloquence in his own. The outline, the outline of John Dryden. There is social, political, and religious background of the age of Dryden. literary connection of the age, the introduction of Dryden, chronological life on John Dryden, list of John Dryden's work, Dryden's political and prose work, satires and criticism, translation and lyrics of the age, drama of the age, Dryden's influence on the literature, summary of the Restoration period. The background of the age. The Restoration period is also known as the Age of Dryden because Dryden was the most imposing literary figure of the time, and the period is generally considered as concluding with his death in 1700. As might have been expressed from the history of the period, we find that literature of the Restoration was aristocratic in tone and was addressed particularly to the court. The drama was one of the most favored of literary forms, but the audience was limited to the nobility and was not large enough to support more than one of the two theaters in London at a time. The prevailing tone of drama and literature in general was elegant, cynical, and witty. In such an atmosphere, great works of imagination can find no lyricism, and it is no surprising thus that satire became the most typical form of literature. The exit of the accord in France had taught the royalist audience to admire classic form and is as exhibited in French literature of the period. English writers of the Restoration emphasized these qualities. Political background. The period from 1660 to 1700 is designated as the Age of Restoration or the Age of Dryden. The death of 1600 is one of the most significant in the history of English literature, as it was in the history of English politics. In that year, Charles II was brought back to the throne from which his father had been driven, and the restoration of monarchy in England became a reality. The disgraceful reign of Charles II lasted for 25 years. Charles II was an extremely mean fellow who had no feeling of patriotism and responsibility to his country. He gave half office to black guards, stole from the exchequer like a common thief, lay off Catholics and Protestants against each other, disregarding his pledge to both alike, broke his solemn treaty with the Dutch and with his old minister, and betrayed his country for French money to spend on his own pleasures. A very true picture of the age has been given by Trevelyan in his English social history, where he observes that the king and the younger generation of aristocracy had passed through a bitter experience which had left a permanent scar behind. The life of the court of the Charles II presents a very sad and ignoble picture. There was a great reaction against the stand morality of the Puritans. Charles II was himself dissolute and selfish and surrounded his court with men and women who revel in these qualities. Social background. There were two great disasters which affected tremendously the life of the people and changed the external appearance of London. Is the Great Plague of 1665 and the Great Fire of 1666. The Great Plague, which broke out with peculiar virulence, was worse than Black Death of 1349 and sweating sickness of 1507. Pepys' diary, Dr. Hodge, Lacmonia, and Defoe's history of the plague describe the horrors of the Great Plague. It forced people to leave London and run away to different places. In his God's terrible voice in the city, Thomas Vincent gives a moving account of his scourge. Most of the rich are now gone, and the middle sort will not stay behind. But the poor and the forced, the true poverty, to say a bit the storm, the very thinking feeders, they have had a plague, have brought the plagues and the death upon many souls. But by the sight of a corpse, and the streets have fallen into shivering, and immediately the disease has assaulted them, and the surgeon that has arrested them, and clapped the doors of the houses upon them, from whence they have come from. No more little have been brought to their graves. John Dryden, 1631 until 17 thousands. Dryden is the greatest literary figure of the Restoration period. He made his mark in the field of poetry, drama, and prose. He is true representative of his age, and his work we can find excellent reflection of both the good and the evil things of his age. If we can think of a moment of literature as a channel of water, we may appreciate the figure that Dryden is the log by which the water of English poetry were let down from the mountains of Shakespeare and Milton to the plain of Pope. That is, he stands between two very different ages and serves as a transition from one to the other. Chronological life of John Dryden. John Dryden was not only English poet but also great prose writer, playwright, translator, essayist, and critic. He was born on 19th of August 1631 in the village of Aldwinkle, Northamptonshire in England. He was a son of country gentlemen. His father had connection with the Parliament as well as Church of England. He had prosperous family who brought him up in the strict Puritan faith. They sent him first to the famous Westminster School in 1644, and then he entered 1650 to Trinity College, Cambridge, where he took his BA degree in 54. He completed his university in 1657. Then he moved to London to begin his career as a professional writer and lived with his cousin Sir Gilbert Pickering. In 1660, he produced a tragedy to celebrating the Restoration in heroic couplets. This poem contains almost 300 lines. In 1663, he wrote his first play, The Wild Gallant, but this play was failed. In 1664, he wrote his second play, The Indian Queen. This play got much more success and was one of the first of the new heroic tragedies. In 1665, he wrote The Indian Emperor, which was a tragic comedy work and dealt with the conquest of Mexico. In 1667, he produced The Secret Love. This work also a successful tragic comedy work, and Annus Mirabile, The Years of Wonder, which was the main work to establish his reputation. In 1668, he began to write exclusively for Thomas Killigrew Theatrical Company, and he began to write an important series of critical essays as prefaces to his plays, such as Essays of Dramatic Poesy. In 1670, he was created Historia Graeper Royal. In 1672, he produced the comedy Marriage à la Mode. In 1677, he began to adopt a series of Shakespeare plays such as The Tempest and the Antony and Cleopatra. He also wrote librettos for operas such as The State of Innocence, which was an adaptation of Milton's work Paradise Lost. In 1678, he left the Killigrew Company, which was ridden with the debts, and offered his new work Oedipus to another company. In 1682, he wrote the didactic poem Religio, which argues the case for Anglicanism. In 1683, he was appointed in the custom for his political effort in support of the Tories. In 1685, the biggest incident happened, and that was he converted to Catholicism. In 1688, he lost the laureateship when the English Revolution happened, and King William and Queen Mary took over the throne from the James II. In 1689, he began to write more poetry and theoretical works. He wrote some masterpiece works such as Absalom and Achitophel, but he produced some items for the stage plays such as Don Sebastian. In 1690, he produced a Mephiton based on the classical myth. He wrote the libretto for King Arthur with music by Harry Purcell. In his whole career, he translated the works of different authors such as Shakespeare, Virgil, and other authors. In 1663, 1st December, he got married with the Lady Elizabeth Howard. She was the eldest daughter of the Earl of Bexhill, and in due course she bore him 3 sons. In 1667, he wrote the longest poem Annus Mirabilis, it was celebration of the victory by the English fleet over the Dutch and the Londoners. He died on 12 May, 12th of May 1700 century, London, England, and buried at Palms Corner with Mr. Abbey. With his work has three genres: diary, family tree, letters, the essays, the characters, romance, and autobiography, history, criticism, philosophy, political thoughts, religion, and natural science. Jordan's life contains so many conflicting elements of greatness and littleness. The biographer is continually taken away from the fact, which are his chief concern to judge motive, which are manifestly outside his knowledge and business. Judged by his own opinion of himself as expressed in the numerous preference to his work. Dryden was the soul of the candor, writing with no one other master than literature, and with no other object than to advance the welfare of his age and nation. Just judged by his age, he was apparently a time server, catering to the private audience in his drama and dedicating his work with much flattery to those who were easily cajoled by their vanity into sharing their books and patronage. In this, however, he only followed the general custom of the time and is above many of his contemporaries. List of John Dryden's work is Atradia Redux and Mirabilis, Essays of Dramatic Poesy, Absalom and Unsuitable Part 1, The Medal, A Satire Against Sedition, Make Fake News, Religiously, To the Memory of Mr. Alden, The Hymn and the Painter, A Song for Street Cecilia's Day, Alexander Feast, Virgil Walks, Fables, Ancient and Modern. Summary is kehidupan Dryden mengandung begitu banyak elemen yang sangat bertentangan antara kebesaran dan kekecilan sehingga penulis biografi terus-menerus disingkirkan dari fakta-fakta yang menjadi perhatian utama untuk menilai motif dan jelas-jelas berada di luar pengetahuan dan urusannya. Dinilai berdasarkan pendapat sendiri tentang dirinya sendiri, seperti yang diungkapkan dalam berbagai kata pengantar karya. John Dryden adalah orang yang berjiwa keterus-terangan, menulis tanpa pamrih selain sastra, dan tidak mempunyai tujuan lain selain memajukan kesejahteraan zaman dan bangsanya. Dilihat dari perbuatannya, ia rupanya adalah seorang server waktu yang melayani penonton dengan drama-dramanya dan mendedikasikan karyanya dengan penuh sanjungan kepada mereka yang mudah terbujuk oleh kesombongan mereka untuk perlindungan mereka berada di atas banyak orang sezamannya. Demikian presentasi untuk kelompok 4. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.